Welcome to the video presentation for Excelsior Educational Solutions. I'm pleased to have you here listening to this one. We begin with some essential background and we start off with the concept of traditional classrooms, which are, as of now, beginning to ebb away, and there are other sorts of classrooms taking the limelight, but we shall, for now, discuss traditional classrooms because they still comprise a majority of the world's classrooms. A traditional classroom is usually the one where the teacher is the central figure in guiding the discussion or imparting the instruction, and the students are usually silent listeners. In such an environment, student productivity is usually in a very mediocre range and it's not maximized the way it should be. We do not see confidence building measures. Even if we do, it's very less. In the classroom environment, the confidence building measures which are present do not help the students a lot because they do not let the students take risks while they're trying to learn some new material, or even when they're trying to present an idea which is quite different from that of their peers or that of their teacher. Most of the problems students solve in the class have little to no relevance in their lives, and we've all been there one way or another. We solve problems to pass tests or ace assessments, but we do not see, and the educational policy makers do not see the implications that these problems, the solving of these problems has on the later lives of the students who are solving them. There's usually no eliciting of the students' thinking, and most focus is on surface learning. So what I mean by this is that when we are given some sort of new information or we are being taught something, we usually do not go very deep into it. And going deep doesn't mean going through all the details and going through all the mathematics that exists, or even through all sorts of dates that exist in some sort of a war if we were trying to learn about a war. It means engaging with the content and evaluating, analyzing it, or trying to explain it ourselves in our own words and keeping it in our subconscious brain. We do not see that happening in a lot of these classrooms, a majority of the classrooms around the world. Coming over to technological strategies, we see a lot of companies with a lot of products coming up over the years, even in a single academic year, coming into schools, and they usually stay for like 2 to 3 years, and they usually come without conducting some proper research. So what happens is when these things don't work, and when that happens, it's a lose-lose situation for both the companies, of course, because they lose money and lose partners, but the students and the teachers have a void which becomes very hard to fill, and it's a messy situation. Usually there's an absence of systems thinking. So when I talk about systems thinking, I usually mean thinking about a problem or the solution to a problem in its isolation. Imagine, as we're talking now, we're trying to solve the issue of world education and bringing quality education to every student on this planet. So what happens is when educational policymakers or even anyone talks about changing the system, changing the educational systems, it's usually about, okay, let's go there, let's bring some good teachers, or let's boost student productivity. That's how we usually think. We do not think in terms of the conjugation that a problem could have with other things. A student doesn't perform well, or a student's productivity doesn't depend only on what he or she learns in the classroom. It also depends on the background, depends on the environment he or she is coming from, and how he or she decides to use that knowledge he or she has learned in the classroom. So there's usually no conjugation thinking or systems thinking. Now, of course, in a traditional classroom, the focus is on assessments and tests and how well you perform on these tests. So there's usually no development of the so-called 21st century skills, which talk about teamwork, active engagement, or communication, explanation, effective questioning. We don't have none of that. And of course, when we talk about educational development, and as I've told you about already, there's no thinking in systems, and that's the reason we do not see the immediate surroundings of a student, such as structures which aid the learning of a student is being developed. So libraries or public institutions, or even things that structures or institutions that a student can use to aid his or her learning. None of those are considered as a part of educational strategies. Now, comes in our product. Yay! Our product is an educational framework that's friendly for schools to use. I say it's friendly for schools to use because they don't have to make a lot of changes in their functioning or their structures, their routines. It's a system of interconnected educational plus management strategies that ensures that every learner is developing and no learner is left behind. It's a facility for teachers to improve this instruction and supplement their own confidence and learning, because we'll be providing them with materials which actually make them better teachers and aid their learning, because they are getting a chance to learn something, the new things in their own field, to get acquainted with the research that's happening. Of course, it's a tool for principals, district superintendents, administrators to meet their educational standards and even set higher goals. Now, this is something I've discussed in the first teacher's guide about explanation, that expectations, when you keep high expectations from students, they usually perform well. Now, when principals and the administrators see that their students are meeting the standards that they have set, they usually set even higher standards, and we, through our product, through our framework, we will let them set even higher goals, because as I've already mentioned before, we will see to it that every student is being developed in his or her own right, and the potential that they have is being scaffolded, is being brought towards, and it's being used in a very effective way. It's a way, our framework is a way for the community to get involved in the school, and of course it will be aiding in subsequent community development. And it's like all the factors that lead to a better educational atmosphere. The students, the teachers, the administrators, the parents, the community, everybody is getting involved in the setting to put forward or make progress in conjugation with the development of the world and the development of the community themselves. It's a way to record educational data that's helpful to the government. Now, when we talk about educational data, we usually mean collecting data about assessment scores or test scores, or which school district is performing well and which school district isn't. Now, what we will try to do, and what's new in our approach, especially in the data collection process and of course data analysis, is that we'll be giving them a sort of perspective about how things happen or why things are happening, and it's about taking nothing for granted. Supposedly there's a school district that's performing exceptionally well. We will try to uncover the reasons why they're doing well, what strategies they're using that are leading to them performing exceptionally well. And if there's a school district or a school that's not performing well, why are they not performing well? And what can they learn from the students of the school who are performing exceptionally well? So it's like collecting data in a way that's actually helpful for the government to use in their educational policy, and which will let them kind of focus in their educational policies so that there's some sort of a differentiation of resources that can be used and that are given to the school districts, so that every school district kind of prospers in its own right. Of course, now let's talk about the framework, which will be the core focus of this entire startup, and I have been babbling away for quite a long time. We first start with the core focus. We start with the things that we actually will be using in our framework. The first is learning structure and mental modeling. So that's the way teachers plan out their sessions, the way teachers plan out questions, and the way they encourage the students, or even the way students use the mental models they have to convert it into a reality. And the way these two things bind together. The second thing is lesson design for strugglers and high flyers. Usually what we see in a lot of schools is that there's only one sort of lesson design, and that's for everyone. But here, of course, we will have the lesson design that's prescribed in the curriculum, but along with that, we will have lesson design for people who aren't performing particularly well and people who are performing exceptionally well. The third thing is review sessions plus introductions to the topics. Now, this is a particularly interesting topic for me because review sessions are usually the ones where a student gets the opportunity to see how his or her learning is progressing and what he or she can do to aid his or her understanding, or what further steps that can be taken to learn the material more effectively. So in this very thing, we're using something called metacognition, which is thinking about one's own thinking, and through the handouts, through the small paper booklets that we give to the students, they'll be engaging with the material and trying to think the way they think, and overall get a glimpse or a view of how they tackle problems and how it can be converted into an even better way or enhance that way of thinking. Now, the fourth thing will be effective teaching pedagogies, which includes questioning, explaining, and guided learning. We talk about effective questioning. We talk about how teachers can effectively explain, and along with that, we try to develop the questioning abilities and the explaining abilities of students. We will also focus on active engagement techniques and group work. Then we'll design some sort of ambitious literacy programs, which of course this whole thing is in itself an ambitious literacy program, which of course, as mentioned earlier, talks about no child being left behind. So of course after the basic premise of the startup, the ambitious literacy programs would include things such as raising the bar or raising the reading standards of every student, or raising the mathematical skills, the numeracy skills of every student beyond a certain level. The seventh thing is assessment for learning. We will be, along with the prescribed curricular structure, we will be trying to implement some sort of assessments which actually let the students learn and let the students engage with the material. Of course, as in all of the things that we have already discussed, we will be, at the end, trying to develop more effective learners who can contribute to our learning economy, our knowledge economy, that is. We will improve the learning climate through all of these processes, and think about some sort of classroom management. And of course, all of this will be, I've been using the word of course a lot, I'm really sorry about that. We will be focusing on four main areas, those being literacy, math, science, and social sciences. Of course, in a few weeks, not in a few weeks actually, but by August the 1st or August the 2nd, you will have some handouts for a couple of the pointers pointed out to you in the core focuses. Core focus. I'm really sorry for my bad English. The teacher's guide to explaining has already been done. The teacher's guide to questioning is now being written down, so we will have around 6 or 7 teacher guides before we actually start going to the government officials and trying to rake some money out of them to start our project. And now coming over to peripheral focus, which would be concerned with hub building. We will be creating a national system of content creation. So supposedly there's an indigenous war which happened, or a battle which happened in the country that is unique to the country. So we will record a few of the lessons that a teacher teaches in some school that we are a part of, and use that very resource in another school which doesn't have the access to that very resource. Usually, as research points out, there's a lot of videos on YouTube or any video platform that you can possibly think of, and a lot of these come from students of the United States, or students of the United Kingdom, Australia, or Canada, or sometimes Germany and France. And this kind of creates, and it's usually for science and mathematics videos, and it creates a mentality, it creates a mindset in the minds of a lot of students that science, or mathematics, or better learning is only for the students who are in those countries. So we'll be trying to change that with our national system of content creation. We come over to library development. We will try to have some sort of a human library or moving library. Of course, we will not talk about library development right away. It will take us at least, let's say, a good 5 months, as I've predicted, to actually begin the whole process of library development after the date we start. Yes, the third point is very important. We will be connecting schools across the country so that problems are shared in a common platform. And so if a school runs into a problem, there's a common solution that other schools can use too. Probably sometimes kind of changing a few of the details in between, but they have the general idea of how to solve the problem, so that schools don't go on investing their resources trying to solve a problem which has already been solved in some other part of the country. We will be trying to do some community development. I've been saying trying for a long time now again. We will be doing some community development, the development of a cultural identity, and the involvement of community in schools. So we, as discussed with Sandra and Shota, the first thing that we'll be doing as a part of community development is the creation of tourism brochures, where students of preferably the grades 4 to 8 will be creating brochures about their locality, the places they come from, and what is good to visit there. And these brochures, these student-made brochures, will be present at the airport for tourists to pick and take with them for free when they arrive. So this will be a better way for engaging students and engaging the tourists who come to visit, because there will be places that only the locals know, and now the tourists can visit those places of local importance and add to their cultural database of sorts. Of course, I've talked about recording data that's necessary for the government, so I won't be taking a lot of your time and talking about that again. Of course, we will be talking about recording data over subsequent meetings that we shall be having. Of course, this is a major part of our presentation. Why us? The framework has been developed after conversation with teachers, university professors, clinicians, usually psychologists, principals, researchers, and hub leaders from a lot of countries, from over 20 different countries, and over a span of 2 years. And it has been kind of collaborated, I wouldn't say collaborated, but we have been through the databases of What Works Clearinghouse, WWC, which is a way of seeing which interventions work in the field of educational strategies, and we have developed our strategies based on what works and what doesn't. Of course, we are using the strategies which work. It draws upon important suggestions of almost 70 years of research, of what works, that is, and seeks to address unanswered questions. So we will be doing some sort of research projects in the schools that we are a part of. Of course, the research projects will be done as a part to aid the understanding of the researchers who are working or who don't have the access to the perfect sample size. The third point is it's closely related with the Common Core State Standards of the United States, which seeks to improve skill building and better content engagement in the United States. The CCSS is usually a platform or framework in which seeks to kind of engage every student in a way that every student has the potential or gets the chance to showcase their potential or improve upon it, and this makes a way for a platform for a better development of the student. Fourth, which is kind of very important for a lot of people, it boosts academic grades because it makes students better learners, and it makes students think about their own thinking, so they know which strategies are better, which strategies they can leave, and which strategies they need to improve upon. It encourages deep learning, it encourages more engagement with the content, gives students fluency in terms of abstract ideas and language, and of course, it improves in cognitive skills. It allows teachers to understand the needs of each student, which is very important in our times, and maximize the productivity of their classrooms at the same time. And at the same time, they are improving their own knowledge and skills and becoming better teachers themselves. It gives an opportunity to school leaders to scale up their learning goals and reach higher targets, as described earlier. And perhaps the most important thing that I should be talking to you about is that it's easy to use because we won't be requiring really sci-fi stuff or really high-tech stuff that the teachers will have to be trained in. Of course, the teachers will be trained in a couple of things, but those will be really small things that any teacher can take up in a week or something. So the disruptions we are going to do are going to be of a very low degree, and every teacher of every country that we will be going to be a part of can use those things to aid understanding in their classrooms and perhaps in a collective way progress. The added benefits are many, and there's usually payment of certificate fees for online courses, skill building workshops, partial sponsorship if the students attend partner conferences abroad. We will be starting to partner some conferences. Development of cultural identity of the state. So if there are any ethnic languages or cultural practices that are indigenous to the country, we'll be trying to record it, document it. For the revival of ethnic languages, we will be partnering up with an organization called Wikitongues. Exchange programs in other countries of the networks. We'll be doing teacher exchanges for now, so that students who want to become teachers or students who are considering to become teachers as a career choice can actually go to some other country, and we can bring the same sort of students to the other country, and they can experience for a month or so what it takes to become a teacher. There are some there are some evident tourism benefits in conjugation with the community development. As stated earlier, there are going to be some student-made brochures and students as guides, so we can have more guides in the country who take tourists around places that are of local importance and of cultural heritage. So we will be talking about these added benefits in detail or in subsequent meetings, but for the introduction, I think this is all you should know. And of course, there will be some doubts, I'm pretty sure about that. But remember, we are going to talk about all of this at full length in a few days. So, possible partners, as told earlier, they're the possible partners for one of our objectives, that is the revival of ethnic languages, is going to be Wikitongues. We're going to use Khan Academy for their excellent resources. We're going to be partnering up with edX for the online courses, and of course we will be paying the fees of the online courses for students who perform exceptionally well on these. And we are going to use Wikivoyage and Duolingo as our language partners. So the documentation of the language will be done on Wikitongues, while on Wikivoyage, which is a partner project of the Wikimedia Foundation, we're going to create a phrasebook for the ethnic languages, which the students from these ethnic communities can compile, and it will be on the internet for everyone to view and use. Questions? Yes, there are going to be a lot of questions, but I suggest that you send me all of your questions in the Facebook group that I will be creating. I will let Sandra and Shota know about the Facebook page and the Facebook group. And yes, we will be discussing the financial structure later on, and probably it will be a differentiated financial structure for each country. So that's all for now. Have a good day. Thank you for listening, and see you later.